Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, your authentic self emerges part 2. And we're going to go over, we'll refresh our minds on part 1 briefly, but during this month, we're taking a deep and beautiful look at being who our souls came here to be by exploring the qualities of the authentic self and creating a roadmap for arriving at our center, the place where we began, the place where we remember who we really are, one with the one. Holmes tells us in the Science of Mind textbook, the eternal has placed itself at the center of our being. The discovery of this is the greatest discovery of the ages. This month, we are learning the language of spirit, which are the qualities of our authentic self. And I shared a beautiful statement by poet T.S. Eliot last Sunday, and I want to share it again this week, but personalizing it as I did last week. So he says, the end of all of my exploring will be to arrive where I started and know the place for the very first time. And where we started was in the heart of the divine, the center of our being. Out of the divine heart we are birthed, and this journey of exploration, of discovery that we are on is all about returning there. It's about returning to our point of origin, to who we were before we were born, who we came into this world to be before our experiences caused us to begin wearing various masks, covering our authentic selves. So this month, it's about returning to where we began and knowing it at a deeper and more profound level. Last week, we began looking at some intrinsic qualities of the authentic self. And what do I mean by intrinsic? Belonging to a thing by its very nature. That's what intrinsic is. And we all have these qualities just because of who we are, because we are all divine expressions of the one. And last week, we began looking at the 7 qualities that when we express them, we can know we are connected with our authentic self. Or 7 qualities that, when we focus on them, we call our authentic self forth out from behind the masks we tend to wear to hide. So let's begin the exploration this morning by returning just for a moment to the 3 intrinsic qualities of the authentic self we looked at last week. So who remembers what they were? You guys weren't here, so who remembers what we talked about last week? The 3 intrinsic qualities from last week were wholeness, reverence, and fearlessness. We talked about it in the car on the way. Fearlessness. Okay, so let's briefly review. Wholeness. Remembering we are connected to the whole, connected to everyone and everything. Remembering that we are whole and therefore complete. Perfect, right? Just the way that we are, warts, wrinkles, and all. Say with me, I am whole, I am complete, I am one with the one. I am whole, I am complete, I am one with the one. Number 2 is reverence, recognizing the presence of life within all and honoring it as sacred. Remember Ernest Holmes' beautiful words about reverence. He said, if we can bind ourselves together reverently in love and compassion, in mutual tolerance and understanding, under the cohesive powers of the universal law of good and the beneficence of a divine and universal presence, then we shall lead the world down the pathway of a new enlightenment. And that is what we are doing, isn't it? Each and every day. So say with me, I revere all life because it is part of the whole and it is holy. I revere all life because it is part of the whole and it is holy. I know for me that it's just becoming old to listen to stories of conflict and war and all of and hate and not liking this or that or being against. It doesn't feel right. Building walls, things like that. That no longer feels right to me. We're becoming much more of an enlightened society. We're opening up. We're building the bridges, like the Pope says. It's better to build bridges instead of walls. So number 3 was fearlessness. I think to do that, we have to be fearless, right? Facing life fearlessly because I know that I am one with God. Or as a slightly modified quote from the Course in Miracles, if we knew who walked as us, there would be nothing to fear. If we are all divine expressions of the one walking this earth, what are we afraid of? So do you remember your challenge? Anybody remember the challenge from last week? Choose one thing each year to do. Choose one thing each year to do, one thing that you fear. Choose to do one thing each year that you fear. So did anybody do that this week? There are times when I do something that are a little bit, scary.
New York.
Yeah, we made plans to go to New York. That's scary, okay? Because you hear a lot of stories about New York.
Oh,
And,
my niece went.
well, yeah, getting mugged and, how dirty it is, how rude they are and all of it. It's like, you know what? That's like the story of the person who arrives at the city and says, what are the people like here? Well, how were they like at the city you came from? Oh, they were horrible and awful and
Well, they were
everything.
nice
And they said, well, you'll find that here too. Or another guy arrives, how were they where you came from? Nice and loving and wonderful. But they're like that here too. We bring with us what we wish to experience. So, we're bringing excitement. So there we go.
I love New Yorkers, so you just have to.
Yes, and right here, she came from New York, so this
my
is
niece
good.
slipped and fell at someplace, and she said a woman was instantly there with her hand to help her up.
Oh, wow.
Didn't even know who she was.
I love it. I love it. So, what is it? What you were reading is what we put out there, what we focus on, we attract back to us. So, let's say together, I know who walks as me, so I am fearless. I know who walks as me, so I am fearless. And that takes us to our fourth intrinsic quality of our authentic self. And to introduce it, I want to tell you an ancient story. This is an emperor in the Far East, and he was growing old, and it was time for him to choose his successor. And instead of choosing one of his assistants or one of his children, he decided to do something different. He called all of the young people in the kingdom together one day, and he said, it's time for me to step down and choose the next emperor. I've decided to choose one of you. Well, the kids were shocked. But the emperor continued, I'm going to give each one of you a seed today, one very special seed. I want you to plant the seed, water it, and come back in a year from today with what you have grown from that seed. I will then judge the plants that you bring, and I will choose the next emperor. One boy named Ling was there, and that day, like the others, he received his seed. He went home and excitedly told his mother the story. She helped him get a pot and planting soil, and they planted the seed and they watered it very carefully. And every day he watered it and he watched to see if it would grow. After about 3 weeks, some of the other youth began to talk about their seeds and the plants that were beginning to grow. Ling kept watering and caring for his seed, but nothing grew. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks went by. Still nothing. By now, others were talking about their plants, but Ling didn't have a plant, and he felt like a failure. 6 months went by, and still there was nothing in Ling's pot. He just knew he'd killed that seed. Everyone else had trees, and they had plants, and he had nothing. Ling didn't say anything to his friends, however. He just kept waiting for his seed to grow. Eventually, a year went by, and the appointed day arrived for all of the youth of the kingdom to bring their plants to the emperor for inspection. Ling told his mother he wasn't going to go and bring an empty pot. He just couldn't face the embarrassment that he had killed his seed. But she told him that he had to be honest about what had happened. Although he really, really didn't want to, he knew his mother was right. He took his empty pot to the palace. When Ling arrived, he was amazed at the variety of plants grown by the other youth. They were beautiful plants in all shapes and sizes. Ling put his empty pot on the floor, and many of the kids laughed at him. A few felt sorry for him and said, nice try. When the emperor arrived, he surveyed the room and greeted the young people. Ling just tried to hide in the back. My, what great plants and trees and flowers you have all grown, said the emperor. Today, one of you will be appointed the new emperor. All of a sudden, the emperor spotted Ling at the back of the room with his empty pot. He ordered his guards to bring him to the front. Ling was terrified. The emperor knows that I'm a failure. Maybe he will have me killed, he thought. When Ling got to the front, the emperor asked his name. My name is Ling, he replied. And the kids were laughing and making fun of him. The emperor asked everyone to quiet down. He looked at Ling and then announced to the crowd, Behold, your new emperor. His name is Ling. Ling couldn't believe it. He couldn't even grow his seed. How could he be the new emperor? Then the emperor said, 1 year ago today I gave everyone here a seed I told you to take that seed, to plant it, water it, and bring it back to me today. But I gave you all boiled seeds, which would not grow. All of you, except for Ling, have brought me trees and plants and flowers. When you found that the seed would not grow, you substituted another seed for the one I gave you.
Dishonest.
Ling was the only one with the courage and honesty to bring me a pot with my seed in it. Therefore, he's the only one with enough integrity to become the new emperor. So what is our next intrinsic quality?
Integrity.
Integrity is our fourth intrinsic quality of our authentic self. In Your Redefining Moments by Dennis Merritt Jones, Becoming Who You Were Meant to Be, he writes, integrity is the inner knowing of the truth about ourselves and allowing it to sublimate through our mind and heart from the core of our being. It is the melding or integrating of the awareness of the authentic self within into every breath, every thought, and every action, wherever we are and in whatever we are doing. Integrity, then, is the inner knowing and remembrance of our unity with the whole, and honesty, the outer action, how we demonstrate integrity in the world. When we live from our authentic self, the intrinsic quality of integrity moves through us in a way that gives us strength and courage to be the person we know that we came here to be, even when no one else is watching. Someone once wrote, the measure of a man's real character is what he would do if he knew he would never be found out. Or said in another way, living in integrity means leading your life in such a way that you wouldn't be ashamed to sell your parrot to the town gossip. I mean, how many of you have ever had an instance where you've been challenged, perhaps, for that? Like, you've gotten change back in a hurry from a store, and you've left the store, and then realized, oh, they gave me too much. Did we go back? Did we say, oh, we made a mistake and give it back? Or you found something in your cart that you forgot to put on the check stand, and you got out, and oh my gosh, there it was. Those two are instances that happened with me, and it was interesting because one time I had my children with me, and another time I did not. But both times I did take it back and say, you didn't charge me for these batteries. And the other time, I think I had at Starbucks, she gave me like $18 too much back, and I went back at the end of the day and gave it back to her, and she just stood there. She didn't know what to do. I don't think anybody had ever done that before, but it was kind of, I thought, I want people to treat me that way, so I want to do that too. It's important that we live from that quality of our authentic self.
Well, it's also important for the other person. At a bank, she gave me a 20 and it's supposed to be a 10, and I got back in line and gave it back to her, and she said, that is our worst nightmare. Thank you. Hardly anybody comes back.
Yeah.
And she said at the end of the day, that would have
affected her.
That's like traumatic.
It is.
For a teller.
For them not to
come up
balance.
short.
To come up short and not to balance.
She was so grateful. She's a friend for life.
Yeah. See? And it's amazing. It is. So, on to our fifth quality of authentic self, and that is humility. St. Augustine once said, do you wish to rise? Begin by descending. You plan a tower that will pierce the clouds. Lay first the foundation of humility. Humility is a complex word because it can mean different things to different people. Traditionally, it's defined as the act of being modest and respectful. It's also synonymous with being humble or meek. In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, we are given a promise about living from humility or meekness, aren't we? What did he say? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. But what we probably don't know is that the word meek in Aramaic translation means teachable, open, receptive. So we get confused a lot with our interpretations because it was very different in the original writings. So humility, the fifth quality of the authentic self, in at least one way of looking at it, means being open to seeing different viewpoints. Receptive to new understandings, not stuck in what our perceptions or interpretations of things are. I love the story. I think Dr. Ruth in Redlands would talk about her interpretation of when Jesus said, if someone hits you, turn the other cheek. And, people are thinking, why? So they can hit the other cheek too. And she says, no, so you can get a different viewpoint from where they're coming from. When you turn your cheek, you're looking in a different way. So it's a good reminder to look at things from a different point of view. So here's a little humility test to see how open we are, or not, with our perceptions or interpretations. Listen to the following personal ad that appeared in the Atlanta Journal. Well, I'm sure some of you have heard this before. Single black female seeks male companionship. Ethnicity not important. I'm a very good-looking girl who loves to play. I love long walks in the woods, riding in your pickup truck, hunting, camping, fishing trips, and cozy winter nights lying by the fire. Lovingly prepared dinners will have me eating out of your hand. I'll be at the front door when you get home from work, dressed in what nature gave me. Kiss me and I'm yours. Call this number and ask for Daisy. So what is this ad for?
It's for a dog.
If you're thinking, what some of us, when you first read that, you went, oh my. Well, if you were thinking it was for a lovely young lady, you were about the same as 150 men who called the number and found themselves talking to the Humane Society. And the Humane Society
Oh, God.
about an 8-week-old black Labrador retriever named Daisy. Well, as you say, we can be open to a broader interpretation of that ad. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook says, "The divine presence does not force itself upon anyone. He stands at the door and knocks. We must open if we are to receive. We must open the door if we are willing to receive." Be open in humility, open to new ideas, open to new possibilities, open to new ways of being, open to new beliefs, open to others with no need to be validated, approved, loved, or feared. Just open and receptive to life. Humility is yet another natural state of being when we live from the awareness of our oneness with Source. Our sixth quality for our authentic self is equanimity. And I love that word.
What is it?
Equanimity. That's a great word, isn't it? Equanimity. What the heck?
rolls off
Yeah,
your
what the heck does it mean?
Linoleum.
Equanimity. Like linoleum. Equanimity. I like it. According to the dictionary, it means evenness of mind, especially under stress. And this is exactly what I was telling Suzanne. I go, oh my goodness. My talks come at a time when I need them most. So you think I'm doing this for you, but no. This is all for evenness of mind, especially under stress. Spiritually, it's a balance and even state of mind with the soul. It means being anchored in a state of mindfulness that is not disturbed with our human emotions, either negative or affirmative. That's a tall order, isn't it? There's a story of a king who did not have, and this is actually in Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, who did not have much equanimity. He seemed to be easily tossed about in life. He got very, very upset when things went wrong. And he got all puffed up and filled with himself when things went well. And he didn't like either. Because, man, going up and down, that can be tough and it can be very tiring. He knew that to be an effective king, he needed more equanimity. So he called all of the wise men and his sages in, and he gave them the commandment, I need you to craft for me a saying, something short, that I can have inscribed on the inside of this ring that will give me comfort in times of trouble and perspective in times of plenty. Off the sages and the wise men went and worked and worked and worked and argued and disagreed, but finally they came up with the saying, and they presented it to the king, and they had it inscribed inside of his ring. And you know what that ring said? You know what it said on the inside of his ring? This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And it is so true, because when I first was studying this and learning that, the ups and the downs can be very exhausting. And how do you get, where the equanimity? I thought, but I don't want to give up my highs. I don't want to give up that glorious feeling of wonder. And my teacher at the time said, oh no, you don't understand. When you get the equanimity, when you get there, what happens is that whole bar rises up so that you stay in the joy. It's no longer up and down. You even it out, but the whole bar rises. And you're in that state where you are in equanimity, and it's good. So, in your redefining moments, Dennis Merritt Jones writes, to live with equanimity, it means that we are perceiving whatever is in the moment through the neutral eyes of the silent witness. Just as the morning sun shines on all beings equally, because it is incapable of judging some of us more worthy of sunlight than others, the same is true of the authentic self. It finds neither favor nor disfavor with what is happening in the moment. Equanimity allows us to become the discerning observer of life and practice mindfulness of being in a manner that fully integrates the remembrance of wholeness as a state of being that is available to us at our center, not a condition on the surface of life. And that takes us to the seventh and final intrinsic quality of the authentic life, which is, but we're out of time. I'm sorry. We'll have to come back next week to get the final installment on the 7 qualities of the authentic self. For now, let's review 4, 5, and 6. Number 4, there'll be a test. No. There. 4 is integrity, leading our lives in such a way that we wouldn't be ashamed to sell our parrot to the town gossip. Number 5, humility, being open to seeing different viewpoints, receptive to new understandings, not stuck in what our perceptions or interpretations of things are. And equanimity, having a balanced and even state of mind and not being whipped about by our human emotions, either negative or affirmative. So let's conclude our time today by bringing these 3 ideas together in a couple of simple yet powerful statement or affirmations. So let's say this together. Today my outer actions reflect my inner wholeness. In humility, I am open and receptive to life. I face all of life's conditions. With ease and grace. And so it is.